Hey everyone, this is Lawrence Watkins, founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers, here with you once again with Angelina Darrisaw. She is the founder and CEO of C-Suite Coach, and she's our resident career expert. And this week we're talking all about managing difficult and uncomfortable conversations at work. Angelina and I were talking off camera. We were talking about the Get Out, how that's a new movie that came out about, I guess, a horror flick around race and interracial dating and that type of thing. But more so than that, we were just talking about, with the political divide going on in the country right now, a lot of people, especially African Americans, are feeling depressed, and they aren't really feeling like being at work and having those difficult conversations, especially in the age of Trump. And we just, wanted to talk to you today in regards to how do you go about having those different types of conversations, even if you don't want to. What do they look like? What do you need to watch out for? So I'll let Angelina take over. So Angelina, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a great day. And yeah, the things that you're talking about are definitely top of mind for myself, for a lot of working professionals right now. We are in very polarizing times when it comes to how people are feeling. I'm in New York City, for instance. I'm based here, and I have some people in my circle who they were depressed on the day after the election on November 9th, and they almost wanted to call in sick and needed that self-care. And then I'll sit on the subway or be in other circles and hear people that are so excited that this is happening. And these are really difficult areas to navigate at work, but important areas. I was talking to Lawrence about how when I was growing up and I was learning about how to be a strong professional in grad school and in internships, the rules that used to be really the core of how do you have conversation at work was don't discuss religion, politics, or money. But at the times we're in now, you can't avoid discussing politics. So it's a matter of not avoiding the discussion, but making sure that you're discussing it in an appropriate way.
So what has changed then, from the time when you started your career and when you were growing up, when they said they, don't discuss politics, religion, and those types of things, to now in 2017? Like, what changed?
There's a lot of things that have changed. One, the workforce is younger. Millennials are the largest generation in the workforce right now. So having a generation that grew up with more of an openness to having all sorts of discussions. A lot of us spent half of our lives growing up in social media. And so, for instance, it's funny, like I'll talk to my grandmother and say, oh, I miss you if she's traveling somewhere. And she'll say, don't put where I'm traveling on social media. Like someone will come to my house.
Yeah.
Whereas in my generation, we're so open and accustomed to sharing. So that dynamic and the openness of social media has made people more open in general, and having that younger workforce constantly on social media has an impact in the workplace.
Yeah, so a question just came to my head in regards to the workplace is definitely changing, where you have the older individuals starting to retire. So the baby boomers are starting to retire now, but you still have some of those individuals left, and you still have people in Generation X. They're leading the way in a lot of these organizations. So when you have like Generation X leading organizations, you still have some remnants of the baby boomers, and then the millennials coming in. How do these three forces coexist, or these three different groups coexist to have these difficult conversations? And is everyone really willing to have those conversations, or are they really necessary?
So a few different things there. Is everyone willing? The answer in some cases might be yes, and in other cases might be no. But the key thing to keep in mind is when those conversations are happening, how are they happening? Is there a strategy in mind? Is it an open forum, or are we talking about at the water cooler, people sharing their thoughts and someone walking away offended and angry and you've just ruined their day and potentially your relationship with them? Or are we talking about an exchange of ideas that can improve team dynamics and make people more willing to collaborate, even though they may be coming from different places? So there might be some instances where people are, no, I absolutely don't want to have the conversation. And it's important when we think about inclusive cultures to also embrace those cross-generational differences.
Right. So, what's your first tip, like the very first tip that you have for people wanting to have these types of conversations at work?
So the first tip that comes to mind is it's important to listen to other voices and ideas. And that goes for diverse professionals as well as the predominantly white counterparts that might be in their environment as well. Everyone should take the time to listen to ideas and have a healthy exchange of ideas. When I thought about this, I thought about recently reading an article about a comedian, Jessica Williams, at this luncheon with other Hollywood celebs and sharing her experiences as a Black woman, and some of the actors that were in attendance speaking over her and trying to explain to her why her ideas weren't good rather than actually listening. And as you read the article, you're left feeling uncomfortable, right? Because you're seeing someone wanting to express how they feel, but just feeling quieted. So it's important.
That mansplaining. So they call it mansplaining.
Exactly. And that's kind of mansplaining, whitesplaining, whatever you want to call it. There's this idea that sometimes some people feel that they know all the ideas, but the reality is we have to be open to discourse. We have to be open to letting people share their experiences without dismissing those ideas. And that's the beginning of what it takes to create a healthy conversation.
Right. So, after, you start to listen and let other people talk, because I think that's what happens on the internet too now, right?
Yes.
Especially with,
there's all these disclaimers, like think about what you're going to say before you comment. And I saw a new app come out where they make you do a quiz to see if you even read the article before you comment, all these things to calm people down.
I haven't seen that app. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
because you see that all over the internet from, it's been a long-standing in sports circles in terms of like ESPN threads and comment boards that most people don't actually read the article. They have their beliefs already intact, their opinions are intact, and for the most part, you're not really going to change that through any type of comments, even if it is like the most eloquent and well thought out comment that you could have ever come up with. I think that's just important for everyone. But, I think we can heed our own advice because a lot of times we don't listen. So we always talk about how other people don't listen, and a lot of times we don't listen as well. So I definitely agree with that. So, what's your second tip after listening?
Yeah, so we talked about that old rule of don't talk religion, politics, and money. But now that rule is being revamped and there is more talk about politics, we have to think back to why that rule was created in the first place. And that kind of was the standard because those are three issues that can rile people up, right? Mm-hmm. How I feel about my faith, how much money I'm making, and how I want to spend it, and also who I voted for and everything political I feel about any issue. Those are really charged topics. Mm-hmm. So things that rile you up have the potential to get you really excited. What's key to remember is where you are, right? You're still at work. These are still professional conversations happening. They are your coworkers. So sometimes you might need to take a deep breath, walk away from the conversation and revisit it. But whatever you do, it's key to find some sort of strategy for keeping your calm so that conversation doesn't turn into somebody saying something that could potentially be really harmful to your employment, right?
Yeah. And I'm sure that happens more times than not. I'm not going to say that. What was that Dave Chappelle skit when keeping it real goes wrong?
Yes, you don't want it to go wrong, and then you have no money to talk about. You're out of a job.
Right. And I was just thinking about that episode. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but I think it was when Dave Chappelle was playing someone like a corporate executive, and everyone else in the room was, talking about these like offensive type of topics, and then he just, kind of went out there, that one time, and then, he lost everything in the process. And I think, as African Americans and as Black people, we definitely have to, watch out for that as well. So we have listening. We have, be mindful of, where you are. Make sure that you always remember that you're in a professional setting. You still need to keep those relationships intact. What's next?
One of the things that's really interesting is this is an area where you can shine, and your diverse perspective and your ability to articulate how you're feeling can be an opportunity for you to be a leader on your team, right? You might see that your boss or your manager, whoever the case might be, that might be at the center leading these conversations, may be struggling. And that might come from them having a completely different perspective. So for instance, say you are a diverse professional and the rest of your team isn't, and there is a struggle on how do we deal with these topics. Maybe your boss's manager is of a different ethnicity or a different gender, and your boss wants to know how do they talk to them. Here, you can leverage some of your experience to offer ideas and potentially strengthen your team by being open to being a leader in this regard.
Yeah, I can see that. I was just thinking about, do you have any examples of that happening to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that happens is people have blind spots, right? So what that means is literally, and I think we talked about this in our last session, they're blind. It's not that they have this bias because they just completely don't want to know the real side. It's that they've developed this and they're unaware of how to see it. So as a diverse professional, I can then share another perspective that enlightens that perspective and maybe prevents that boss, for instance, from, if here's an example, if they've made an ignorant comment around me that hurts me as a Black woman, and I know that they're going to be interacting with senior leaders that are also Black women, I want to share my perspective and prohibit the members of my team from going and making that same comment and potentially damaging those relationships because of their blind spot.
Right. That's happened to me before. It happened to me in business school. I was thinking about this a student from China. So he was, a Chinese person, going to Ithaca, New York for 2 years to, I guess, learn more about business, whatever. And, he had this perception of like Black people that, he kept to himself. But then one day he just, told me at a party, it's like, and I, this is a point where you could have gotten offended. It's like, oh, Lawrence, you're not like all the other Black people that I see, right?
Yeah.
And that could be taken in many different types of ways. And of course, I kept my cool, but then we kind of just talked about it, and because his perception of Black people only came from the media, and that's all he ever. That's I was probably the first Black person that he ever had serious conversations with over that period of time. But I think we had a long, in-depth conversation about a lot of different things, and I think he was a little, I guess given Chinese culture and Asian culture, he was a little reticent to have that type of conversation with me. But I think in the end, he was glad that we had that conversation, and I was too, because I think it helped shape and change his outlook in regards to things that in the United States that you can and can't say, how to see in that blind spot, for future types of conversations. So
yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And I think what you're hitting on is by you being willing and open to sharing your perspective and speaking up in some of those uncomfortable conversations, that's an act of leadership. And that's one that can add value back to your team and improve how they connect with, whether it's diverse clients or other diverse leaders, that improve those relationships. So by you being willing to step up and share your perspective, you're doing a service for your whole team, and you're showcasing your leadership in a different type of way.
Yeah, and I think about that too, because it could have been easy for me to get offended and not do the other steps, like listen, and then just kind of go off the rails. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you offended me like that or said that, and it would have ruin our relationship with him, who was an important part of my business school experience. But then, the way that I usually have those types of conversations is it's kind of like I have an outer body experience. Like it's not Lawrence having this conversation. It's like I'm an observer to the conversation that the two are having. And that really helps me keep my cool.
And also the other part that you hit on, Lawrence, is that in addition to this being about having showcasing your leadership, in addition to it being about maintaining your brand, even when your coworkers might be saying things that offend you, the stakes are higher here because it's about work. So it's also about making sure that you're creating a comfortable situation for you moving forward. You talked about some of the stats that are coming out about depression at work. We want to create conversations that prevent those comments from happening as frequently so you can be happier at work. So being open and willing to have that conversation with whether it's your business school peer or your coworker or whoever it might be, that then is an act of self-care, because then you may not have to have that conversation over and over again as you start to share how it affects you.
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. So, we're running out of time here today.
Yes.
But do you have any closing thoughts regarding this topic?
The last thing I would say is that if you find in your company or wherever you're seated right now that these conversations are coming up over and over again, it might be time to discuss with HR or your diversity and inclusion team, should we have a forum for these conversations? People are getting really riled up at the beginning of conference meetings. People are getting really riled up at the water cooler. And there's a lot of feelings happening about everything that's going on. The CNN notifications constantly popping up on our phones. Maybe we should create a forum for this conversation. And then when you create the forum, make sure that there's a strategy to it so that everyone walks away with tangible outcomes and ideas for what are the next steps. When we're at the water cooler again, do we cut the conversation short? What works for our company and our culture? Do we want to have this be an area where once a month we can have these discussions company-wide? Really identify what works best for your culture, but create some sort of strategy and some outcomes that you identify for having these conversations at work.
Yeah, and you putting together some type of forum like that to have those conversations is an additional way
flexing your leadership
skills, right? So perfect. So Angelina, thanks so much for joining us once again to talk about this topic.
Yes.
If you'd like to know more about Angelina Darrisaw or anything else that we're doing at Great Black Speakers, head over to www.greatblackspeakers.com. You can search her name, and she's really easy to find on the website. You can also visit, thec-suitecoach.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So, or follow her at C-Suite Coach on Twitter. So, Angelina, thanks once again, and we'll be.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.